afternoon. Hello, hello. So hopefully I'm live. I can't tell yet. But it's Friday. I can't believe it's Friday again. Has your week gone as fast as mine has? Okay, and I can see I'm there, so that's good. Hooray. Okay, I don't know if there's anybody actually there yet. It's not telling me there is, but then that doesn't mean that there's nobody out there. On the other hand, I could be talking to myself, which wouldn't be unusual actually. I caught myself talking to myself today, and I couldn't even use the excuse that I was talking to the dog because she was not in the room either. Mary's here and Maureen's here. Hello ladies, lovely to have you with me. Thank you very much for joining us. God, it's a beautiful afternoon here. I'm hoping it's the same where you are. I know it will be with Mary because Mary's close to me. And it's been the most glorious week. Really beautiful. If you can get out of the wind, which is still cold to be honest. The sunshine has been gorgeous. The skies have been blue. The birds have been singing. It's been really beautiful. Yeah, spring is definitely here. Mary's saying hi to everyone. Belinda's here. She's also saying hi to everyone, and hello Maureen too. Okay, well, it wouldn't be a Friday if I didn't put some hand cream on, would it? So I'm going to do that. I did actually put some on before I went live, but oh, I don't know about you. All this hand washing, I know it's important and I'm really doing it, and I'm singing my happy birthday twice over every single time, but it's not doing my skin any good at all. I don't know how nurses and so on cope. I really don't. But there we go, there's some more there. So I've got a non-greasy hand cream that doesn't leave marks on card or paper, which is essential for paper crafting. So that's got that sorted. Right, so today it's all about the Fine Art Floral suite. So I'll give you a few updates as usual. There's not too much to talk about this week. And then I'll briefly show you all the bits and pieces in the Fine Art Floral suite, and then I've got 3 projects that I'm going to show you. And yes, I absolutely love this suite. I love the colours, I love the painted look to it. So if you haven't been converted to it as an absolute essential in your craft stash, then maybe you will be by the end of today, who knows. Now tell me what you've all been up to this last week. What have I done? Some of you may have seen on my Facebook page on Monday, I actually took a few hours off work in the middle of the day, which I don't normally do, and went out to lunch with my husband, and we met a couple of friends. I used to work with Helen years and years ago. We were staff trainers together, and we see each other every couple of months normally, and we hadn't seen them since October, so that was really nice. We went down to Avon Beach, which is not far from where I live. We sat outside on a glorious day and had a very nice lunch right by the beach. It was really lovely. Yes, it felt like such a treat after us not being able to do things for such a very long time. And I'd taken gloves and a scarf and my thick coat, but actually I just sat there in a jumper. It was really, really lovely. It set me up for the whole week, that actually. Really enjoyed it. Other than that, I've been cutting card, stamping, and doing all those things that I really enjoy doing. I've made lots of videos this week. I've got classes coming out next week, so I've got all those sorted. And I've posted the Sand and Sea sweet samplers. So for those of you who have ordered those, they have gone off in the post. I haven't emailed you to tell you that yet, but they did go this morning. So yes, so that's on its way, which is good news. All right, let me just see if there's any other comments. I really would like to know what you've been doing though. I'm sure somebody's been doing something exciting. Okay, all right, I'm going to turn the camera down and show you what we're playing with today. So as always, I'm going to cover over the camera lens so that you don't get motion sickness while I'm fiddling around with everything. So here goes. And I need to remember to talk to you so you don't think that I've gone away. Okay, so I'm just going to reset a couple of things here. So everything's around the right way. No, I don't want a fancy filter. I don't want sparkles. I don't want glitter. I don't want panda ears or any of the other marvels that the technology can offer me. Okay, I'm going to move my microphone and I'm just clipping all the leads up out of the way, and then I'll have a look and see where we are. Okay, so you can talk amongst yourselves. Gillian's here. Hi, Gillian. Oh, Gillian, you're away at your holiday caravan in the sun. How lovely. That's really, really nice. I hope you've taken some crafting with you. And whereabouts is your holiday caravan? Have you had to travel very far? All right. Mary's had her second vaccination. Not very exciting. She went to Totton Pharmacy and it was very well organised. No, I know what you mean. It isn't awfully exciting, is it, Mary? But I'm very glad that you've had it. Now, I can never remember which way I have to turn this. I'm just trying to straighten things up on the screen. Have I turned everything the right way, or have I made it worse? No, I've made it worse. Okay, I have to go the opposite way to what I need. And so I can never ever remember that that's what I need to do. So bear with me. Oh, and that's gone too far, hasn't it? That's not straight either. Okay, little bit of a tweak. Ruth's here. Hi, Ruth. Hooray, you made it. You found us. All I've done is a bit of chit chat, Ruth. You haven't missed anything at all. So Gillian's near Henley and she's trying to craft each day for a while. Oh, good. Well, that makes it a proper holiday to my mind. If I'm not crafting, I'm not on holiday. That's why I love my job, because it feels like a holiday. Okay, well, that's good to know. Well, I hope the lovely weather continues. How much longer have you got, Gillian? Right, so I think I've got this as straight as I'm probably going to manage to. So I'm just going to show you the Fine Art Floral suite in here, because there's lots of lovely samples, and if you know where they are you can look at them afterwards. So this is the January to June mini catalogue, and it's on page 32 to 34. So there are lots and lots of samples here, and here you can see all the bits and pieces, and then over the page they show you the stamp set and the dies and some more samples. So that's got to be good. Hello, Kay, nice to have you. And Gillian, oh, you've got to come home next Tuesday to get your second vaccination. Oh, well, I'm sorry if you've got to come home especially for that, but it's a good reason. So yes, second vaccinations, excellent, then you'll be done. Pam's been here. She ah, you've been on a different page, Pam. Well, that's understandable. Not to worry. I'm glad you made it. You haven't missed any crafting, though. Okay, so that's where you'll find everything in the catalogue. Now, the suite contains a stamp set and dies, some beautiful gold acetate, which I'm going to show you in a minute, some ribbon, which I'm also going to be using, some gilding flakes, which are stunning, an embossing folder, heat and stick powder, which is the glue for the gilding flakes, and some really beautiful patterned paper. And you may have seen me show you this when I showed you what's in the suite sampler as well, so this might be your second look at it. On page 32 here, it tells you how to use the gilded leafing, which if you've done heat embossing before is very straightforward. You stamp in Versamark ink, and instead of using embossing powder, you add heat and stick powder, which looks like embossing powder, but it's not, it's a powdered glue. Then you heat it with your heat tool and the powder goes sticky, and then you just shake on some of the gilding flakes and press them down. You can use your fingers, you can use a brush, you can use a bit of sponge. And then quite vigorously and with a reasonable amount of pressure, you then dust off the excess and you will end up with a beautifully gilded design. Now, I adore these, but they have been out of stock for ages. I think because we have to get them from the Far East. I think that's the reason. I've got customers who have ordered but haven't got them yet, and last time I looked you couldn't order them at all. So much as I would really like to use these, I think using something that you can't actually order is just frustrating. So I'm going to set those aside, but I will be able to use them again because they have made it across into the new annual catalogue. So we've got them for at least another year. So I know I will be using those, and they are absolutely beautiful. So I hope you're not disappointed about that. They will come back, I'm sure, and I'll use them. But as I say, I don't want to frustrate everybody. So that's the suite then. And I realise I haven't given you the updates. I'm going to leave my bit of paper there and I'll do those at the end. So this is the stamp set and the dies. The stamp set is 2-step stamping or even 3-step stamping for this large flower image. So you've got a kind of a background, and then you've got one here with a bit more detail on it, and then this one which optionally you can use in the centre. And these do look absolutely beautiful if you stamp this in a colour, and then you use either this one and or this one with Versamark ink and apply the gilding flakes. Absolutely stunning. Then you've also got a little version here of a flower with a sort of a bud on the side. You've got a stem with leaves. You've got a flower stem here with several flowers and buds on it. And then lots of words. It's all the keywords in a really nice, clear, easy to read font as well. So it's brilliant to have a set that's got things like happy birthday, thank you, best wishes, I'm thinking of you in it, as well as several others. So a great stamp set. This is the die set. Now the dies will cut out the large flower, the little group of flowers, the stem with the leaves, and then there are 2 dies in there which will cut a shape with like sort of almost like postage perforations along the edges, which fits all the words. So you've got a short one and a long one. And then this one here, I can probably best show you by showing you the catalogue again. So it actually cuts out the words just want to say. So you can use these in lots of ways. You can use them just as they come on card and just glue them down. You could stick them to the adhesive sheet and then die cut them. Then they'd be like stickers on the back. You could stick them to the foam adhesive sheet. So I've talked about this before, but this is like 3D foam pads, but it's a whole sheet like this. So you'd peel off the backing, stick your card on there, and then send it through your die cutting machine with the die, and it will cut out those words but with 3D foam on the back, and then you just peel off the other backing paper, and again they're like 3D stickers. So that's a great way to use them. You can use just part of the words as they've done here, and here they've also used the gilding flakes on them. So lots and lots of ways to use the words. I'm not actually using that die today, but I've used, I think, pretty much all the others. So the dies are lovely. And then there's the embossing folder, which doesn't look very exciting on its own, but I'll show you some card that's been embossed. This is the Painted Textures. It's a 3D embossing folder, so it's really thick and it gives ever such detailed embossing. And if you were here last week, you will have seen I showed you the Sweet Sampler, which is just a selection of the consumable products from the suite. So if you don't want to have to buy a whole pack of everything, you can just have some bits and pieces and try them out, and then if you love it you can order the full sizes. So in the Sweet Sampler, and I put these together myself so they're not in the catalogue, there are some sheets of coloured card which are colours that coordinate with the papers. So you have Bumblebee, Poppy Parade, Pool Party, Petal Pink and Flirty Flamingo. So there's an A4 sheet of each of those. I've also given you 2 of those colours plus white ready embossed. I don't know which one will show best on the camera. I'm just going to wait and have a look on my iPad. Wait for it to catch up. There's quite a lag. I think actually that pink one probably is showing up not too badly. Let me move those so it's against a white background. So the embossing on this, it looks just like somebody has taken a palette knife and some really thick oil paint and then just smooshed it across the card. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's one of those embossing folders that will work with pretty much anything else you want to use it with. So it's definitely not restricted for use to just these particular papers and stamps. So I'm embossing a piece of that in each of 3 colours for you, so you've got some of those to play with as well. This is a 1/4 sheet of A4, so it will comfortably cover a card front. You've got a couple of meters of this pretty ribbon, which has got, I hope you can see this gorgeous gold thread in it, really kind of twinkly. I'll use some of this later. This ties beautifully. I was going to say it's soft but firm, which doesn't make any kind of sense at all. It's firm enough to hold its shape, but it's soft enough to tie. So that's really pretty. So you've got 2 meters of that. And then you have a 1/4 pack of the patterned paper. So the paper is floral designs on one side and kind of painted textures on the other side. And these were all actually painted by one of the Stampin' Up artists, and then they were rendered digitally and turned into paper. So they are actually reproductions of actual paintings. So this one is floral on a grey background, and it's got these gorgeous blues and turquoises on the back. This one, I've got the picture landscape because that's generally the best for crafting, but it's not so good when I'm trying to show you something tall. But hopefully you can see this is a kind of almost like a grouping or an arrangement of the flowers, so you can cut it across and then you've got pieces which work beautifully for card fronts, or it would make a nice front for a gift bag. On the back of that is a paler version of the turquoises. Then there's this one, which is beautiful pink flowers. And on the back, there's a lovely pattern in that golden bumblebee yellow. This one, which is like the large flower in the stamp set, lots of them, lots of different colours. And beautiful pinky red on the back. And then the last 2 are very special because the acetate coordinates with these. So I'll show you the papers on their own. So this is another one which is like an arrangement of flowers. And on the back are pinks and orange. I love pink and orange together. I know that strictly speaking you shouldn't put them together, but I just love them. And the other one is this one, which is sort of posies of flowers all across in shades of pink and green. And on the back there's very pale petal pink, almost a pinkish beige on the back. And then you're also going to get 1/2 pack of the Golden Garden acetate. So that's clear plastic, it's quite a heavy weight, with a gold pattern on one side and a silver pattern on the other. On the silver side it's protected with a plastic film, so before you use it you want to just hook up the corner like that. That will get the corner of the film loose and just peel it off. I've actually done that on here. So you can use the silver side or you can use the gold side. So you've got this pattern which echoes the patterns on the back of some of the papers. And then there are 2 that coordinate with the patterned paper. So this one overlays the patterned paper. And when I make up the sampler packs, I will cut it carefully so that it matches. And hopefully you can see that then gives a beautiful gold outline to the paper. So I love it used with the paper, but you can also use it on its own. It works on its own. However, the silver side does not match up, because then you end up with a mirror image. But to use with the paper, use the gold side and it's absolutely stunning. And of course you can cut that up too. And then the other pattern that the acetate works with is this one. There we go. And again, I'll cut this carefully so that you end up with 2 pieces that match together. So again, I hope you can see. So beautiful on its own. Even better used together. And I'm going to use some of this acetate on one of the projects in a minute. So those are the things that I've put into a sampler pack for you. You can order this up until the 30th, which is Friday of next week. The pack is £11 if you live close enough to me to collect it, or £13 if you'd like me to send it to you. And I send it in a board backed envelope, so it shouldn't get bent, 2nd class post. So if you would like one of those, then just send me an email, please. Comments here, I usually see them, but sometimes they get missed. So it's always better to send me an email. And if you haven't got my email, It's handmade at home, all one word, at hotmail.co.uk. There we go. If I'd written a bit smaller, I would have fitted that all on one line for you, wouldn't I? Handmade at home at hotmail.co.uk. And I can send you a sheet which gives you all the details and get that ordered for you if you would like one. I've already got a few people on the list. So that's a really nice pack of goodies, and I'm hoping that I will inspire you with some ideas of how to use it. So the first card, you have everything actually in that sweet sampler pack to make this, with the exception of the envelope and the insert. Yeah, well, actually, it's not quite true, because I was going to use Poppy Parade and then I caved and used Merry Merlot card. All right, so there's no Merry Merlot card, but Poppy Parade would look nicest too. I'll show you that. I've got a piece over here. Maybe I should use that instead. That would be better, wouldn't it? Then you can actually make this using the sweet sampler. There we go. So I'll just trim that to size. So I've just got half a sheet of Bumblebee card here. So I've cut it lengthways, and then I've just scored across at 5 7/8 inches. And I'm just going to cut my standard layer for a card front, which is 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. 5.5 by 3 3/4. There we go. Gillian's saying she thinks you have asked for this. I think you have, Gillian, but I haven't got my list in front of me. So if you'd like me to double check while we're live, let me know, and I can just go the other side of the room and collect my list and have a look. I can't remember offhand, I must admit. But let me know if you'd like me to check. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to layer up some card and paper. So this paper has this pattern on the back, but I'm going to use this side, which looks a little bit like someone stenciled a pattern and then brushed some paint over the top. So it's quite subtle, and I'm using some quite bold flowers on top, so it seems to work pretty well. And I've cut the paper just 1/8 inch smaller both ways. So instead of 5.5, my Poppy Parade card is 5.5, my paper is 5 3/8, and then this way my Poppy Parade card is 3 3/4, and my paper is 3 5/8, and that's inches. All right, so I'm just going to stick that to my card base. All right, and then I've got some of the paper here which I have actually fussy cut. So I've just cut out some pieces of paper. Now I was going to do it live, and then I was just cutting some out to see how long it took, and it takes a little while, and I thought actually watching somebody cut out paper is not that exciting. So I pre-cut it to show you. And I'll just lift that up and try, and hopefully the camera will get in focus. I have not been really exact with this, because once it's stuck down against a patterned background, you don't have to be super precise. I've tried to leave my usual little white border around things. Let me put it on something coloured, and that will hopefully show up a little bit better. So I've left a little white border around my cutting out, just because if my cutting line is a little bit wobbly, then it shows much less than if I'm trying to precisely cut on the edge of the design. And you can see, I mean, there's some areas here I haven't cut all the way down and cut out that background there. I thought that was just too much. I've done it where it was relatively easy to do, but you don't have to be super picky about how you cut the paper out. And I've got some kind of odd bits and pieces, this one here for instance, which I'm just going to tuck in probably just to even up the design a bit. So I'm going to lay this down here and just sort of have a think about how I want to arrange it. I think that's probably better that way round. And then I could balance it with this bit. So I just play this. What I usually do is I usually sit down in front of the television or put a podcast on or something, or YouTube, and cut out, you know, maybe even an entire sheet of paper, and then I have lots and lots of pieces to play with, and then I just arrange them until I'm happy with the way it looks. I think something like that I'm going to be pleased with. So I'll put this piece on first. I'm just going to use good old multi-purpose glue on the back and just kind of wiggle a line of it around all those little bits like that. So there's no stamping at all on this card. I've just made it with card and patterned paper, which goes against the grain just a little bit because I do love to stamp, but sometimes the paper will just do all the work for you. So I think this piece needs to go on first, probably. Yeah. So I'm just looking and seeing where that will go, and then I'll glue that, then I'll put the big piece over the top. This is a slightly odd shape, but I did like this kind of spriggy look to it. I thought it would be a useful bit to have kind of poking out to the side. And then this one will just go over the top. So I could 3D this one. I think I'm just going to leave it flat. There we are. So that's my card front. I'll give you a minute to look at that, and I'm going to drink some of my cup of tea. And then for my insert, I've just got a piece of white card. I'm still working on Whisper White, but Basic White is what's replaced it. And I've got another one of those flower cutouts that I just thought I would pop on the inside here. And I'm going to leave it as a blank card because it's always handy to have one or two of those. And then I'm just going to turn that over and trim off the excess. And when you're cutting out from a sheet of paper, you often end up with bits of the design that's right on the edge, and sometimes they're not a whole design because you've got the edge of the paper there, so you might have a flower that kind of goes off the edge, and those bits can still be used really easily on your inserts or even on the card fronts. Just put the straight edges on the straight edge of your card, and they can be used in the same way. Let's pop that in here. And it's such a bright and cheerful card. There we are. So that one is done. Looking to see if I've got a scrap that will fit the envelope flap, and I have, this is the bit that I've been cutting the flowers from, but I do like to decorate the envelope flap. So I've just put glue on the envelope flap, stuck the paper on top, and then I'll just turn it over and I can trim around very easily, and it just makes the card and envelope look as if they go together. I always think it's a really hard, well, I find it a really hard thing to use patterned paper because it's so beautiful and I don't want to cut into it. But it's a very good thing to use your patterned paper, because if you use your patterned paper, then you can buy more patterned paper, can't you? When the patterned paper is taking over your crafting space, you can feel a little bit guilty if you buy any more. But if you use it all up, then you can buy some more. And I have learnt over the years that there is always more patterned paper that I like. So even if I absolutely love a pack of paper and think that I can't bring myself to use it because I need to keep it, there will always be another pack that I find I like even more. So I do use my paper a lot more now. So that's the first card then, just simply using card and paper, nothing else. Then the next one I'm going to bring in, I have got a sample I can show you first, and this uses some of that beautiful acetate. I'm going to make one that's slightly different, but it will be similar. And there's a bit of stamping on here as well. Hi Antriana, thank you very much. Faye needs to use up her paper still. Yes, get using them, Faye. Putting them on your envelope flaps is a really good way of using paper as well as it looking fabulous. It does, you know, that's a nice way to use your paper, especially if you get just those odd bits and pieces, because it just needs a little rectangle. It doesn't need a huge amount. All right, so I've used a retiring colour on this. I've used some Rococo Rose card. Then I've used a piece of the patterned paper with some of that beautiful golden acetate over the top. You're getting a lot of reflection on this, I know, but I'm hoping that you can still see how lovely that gold is. And then I've used some gold foil around the edge, and I've used a couple of these die cuts for the happy birthday, and then a little bit of the gold thread, which is in the Forever Greenery ribbon. There's a ribbon pack with some vanilla coloured ribbon and some gold thread in it. So that's what I use for this. Oh, Faye says you make your own envelopes out of patterned paper already because you need to use it up. That's okay then. Well, that's a very good use for your patterned paper. Keep doing that and in no time you'll have used it. All right, so that's my sample. And so I'm going to make another one, but in slightly different colours. So I've got Poppy Parade card base here. I've got my gold foil layer. And then I've got another piece of that lovely pattern paper with the gold acetate to go over the top. Okay. So the first thing to do is to attach those two together. Now, what I always have done is think about where I'm going to put my sentiment, and then I've put my glue behind that between the acetate and the paper layer. And then I think it was last week, and I'm pretty sure it was Rosie, who I don't think is here today, but Rosie gave the tip of little tiny dots of glue on the back of the acetate, and actually that works like a charm. So I'm going to do that today. So I'm going to put my glue where I've got the slightly wider areas of the pattern. So here, that's a little bit wider, for instance, whereas that's quite thin, so I won't put any there. But I'm just going to aim to just dot it about in a few places. where that pattern is a little bit wider and try and keep some sort of towards the edges and as well as some across the middle. And I don't know if you can see that, it really is just a tiny, tiny dot just there. So if you're finding it hard to do tiny dots with any kind of control, then pop a bit of glue onto a scrap of card and just pick it up with a cocktail stick. We do have a fine tip glue pen which I haven't tried on acetate. I imagine it will stick it, but it's a very runny glue. So I would be slightly concerned that I would end up with it in places I didn't want it because it's so runny. Lots of my customers swear by it. Although I must admit I'm a bit of a Tombow girl, that's what I use more than anything, this particular multi-purpose glue. There we are. So now I can pop that on here and press it down, and there's just enough glue to keep those layers together, but it's completely invisible. So now I can stick that onto my gold foil. So the gold foil is my standard size, 5.5 by 3 3/4, and then I've just cut the paper and acetate 1/8 of an inch smaller on each direction. So exactly as I did on the last card, just to give me a really narrow border. Hi Amanda, lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And then I'm going to layer this onto a Poppy Parade card base, which is a half a piece of A4 card cut lengthways to give me a long skinny rectangle, and then I've scored that at 5 7/8 inches. So there we are. Now I had been going to, and I've I've forgotten because I've been chatting, I was going to put a band of ribbon across there, so that's, I think, probably, yeah, it's probably too late to do that because my glue is grabbed, so we'll see. I might be able to put a bow on it, or it might just have to leave it for next time. So I've got two pieces here which I've cut using the dies. I've cut one from gold foil and one from vanilla card, and I have my Poppy Parade ink pad, and I'm going to use the Happy Birthday stamp from the Art Gallery stamp set. It fits on here beautifully, but of course you can use whatever you've got. You don't have to have the matching stamps and dies. And I've probably moved this out of shot because I just need to get directly above it to be able to stamp in the middle. Marjorie's here. Hello Marjorie, lovely to have you. And then these two are exactly the same size as each other, but I actually want a little bit of gold showing at each end. So this is a trick many of you will know, I'm sure. So I'm going to cut the one that's going to sit behind in half, like that. And then I'm going to glue it either end of my sentiment, which will give the illusion that the gold one is longer. And this works with all kinds of die cuts. You can cut them across the short direction as I have, or you can cut them lengthways and then pull them down and up, so they're either side of the long side. So that's my little sentiment strip. I'll set that aside just to dry. Where the foil isn't porous, it takes glue just a little bit longer to dry on that. I'll clean my stamp while I'm waiting, because if I put that sentiment strip on here too soon, it's going to end up sliding and I won't have my words on top of my foil. And while I'm waiting, I will also stamp my insert. So I have a piece of very vanilla card here, and I've got the Poppy Parade ink, and I've got the large section of the flower. So I'm just going to stamp the corner of my insert, and I'm just looking for my foam mat. I'm just going to pop this underneath my grid paper. Small photopolymer stamps like the sentiments often stamp fine on their own, but something like this, which is larger and a bit more solid, I'll get a much better impression if I put, I've got a foam piercing mat, but I'll put something soft anyway underneath my work. So you could use a couple of magazines, you might have a mouse mat. Do people use mouse mats anymore? You used to have to always have a mouse mat, didn't you, with your mouse? People don't seem to use them anymore, but anyway, you might have one of those at home. You might have some funky foam. A sheet or two of that will also work. You can see I've got a beautiful complete imprint of my stamp there. Let's clean this as well, and then hopefully that gold foil will have glued itself nicely to my words. Actually, I'll stamp happy birthday on here as well. Using these stamps again, so I thought I will clean them now while I remember that they've got red ink on them rather than put them in something paler in a minute and find that I should have remembered to clean them. So Andriana said she too forgot to wrap the ribbon around when she made a card using this set. She cut the ribbon and stuck it across with double-sided tape in the end. That's a very creative solution, Andriana. Well done. I'm just sliding this to get it straight. There we go. Faye loves her foam mat that she got after watching me before, and it does work so much better. Oh, I'm delighted to hear that, Faye. That's excellent. Yeah, it really makes all the difference with photopolymer stamps. I think you can get such a better look to them. Right, so here's my sentiment strip. Now I'm going to tie a bow. I don't know if a bow's going to work, but I won't know until I put it on there and see. So, oh, and just a quick tip, which lots of you again may already do, but in case you don't, when I'm tying a bow just in my hand rather than round something, I never tie the knot first. I just start off with the loops. You know, if you're tying a shoelace or whatever, you tie a knot first, don't you? And then you make the bow. And I do that if I'm tying it around a card. But if I'm just wanting a bow on its own, I don't do the knot first. And that gives me a neater bow. I have no idea why, but it does. There we are. So if that's my bow, I can play around. No, I think that overpowers things, so it was a good idea, but never mind. So I'm just going to stick this on here now, but I think perhaps I will pop that on with some dimensionals to give it a little bit more interest. So these are the mini ones, because this is quite a narrow panel. Oh, Belinda's got a top tip. If you have a Stamparatus, it's also worth having the foam mat for that to use with photopolymer stamps. Stampin' Up are discontinuing it, I believe, so I think it's still available in clearance. Yes, I think it is too. So thank you for that top tip. Oh, have I forgotten the backing? I've forgotten the backing on that one. That's why that end isn't sticking. There we are. And that is not straight. Were you shouting at me? Straighten that up, Sally. There we are. That's better. And I think, given that there's no bow on this, I'm just going to add a few of these gilded gems. These are beautiful. I really like the little tiny ones particularly. You can see I've got more big ones left than I have small ones, so I'm just going to scatter a few of these, I think. There we are. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Adriana. Excellent. All right, so that is my second card. So, like the first one, but different. Probably won't get those both on, well, I don't think I've got enough height to show you. No, I can't get one above the other, so I'll put them side by side. So changing the colour of the card base does give it a different look. There's a bit more red in these flowers and a little bit more pink in these. So that's why I chose them that way round. I'm going to have some more tea. Okay, so that's those, and then my last project for you has got a bit more stamping on it. It's also got some die cutting, and it's this card here. Oops, sorry, I've just hit the camera, that's moved it. Oh, thank you for the hearts, that's lovely. This is my favourite, probably because of all the pink on it. I do love pink. So I have stamped and die cut already, but I just thought I would show you a couple of things on this. Oh, thank you very much, Belinda. Thank you, I'm glad you like it. So this stamp here, I've used 3-step stamping on it, so I'll show you how I did that. And then this one here, I've stamped using markers to colour it rather than ink pads, because I wanted to get the little bits of green stem in green and I wanted the flowers in pink. So I'll show you how I did that as well. So I'm going to bring back in my foam mat and just some white card. So first of all, the 3-step stamping. I've got Flirty Flamingo ink here, lovely pink. So I've got the solid, put it over there, the solid stamp, or the base layer if you like. So I'm going to ink that up. First of all, I'm going to stamp it off once, just to take off some of that ink, so that when I stamp it on here it will be less intense. Now I could have used a paler pink instead, but I wanted a couple of the layers to be sort of tone on tone. So instead I'm just removing some of the ink, and this instantly doubles the number of colours you have in your ink pad stash, because this is now a pale Flirty Flamingo, and then if I use it at full strength I get normal Flirty Flamingo, and actually with most colours you can stamp off multiple times, so I could probably stamp this off 3-4 times and get a whole variety of different pink shades. So if that's not something you've tried before, it's a really useful technique for your arsenal. And now I'm stamping the detail large flower over the top using ink straight from the ink pad. So you can see straight away that that's much darker, although it's actually the same ink pad. And then finally I've got this little image here, which I'm going to use with Merry Merlot ink. And again, I'm going to stamp it off once. So just remove some of that really deep pink ink, and that just gives me a slightly more subtle look for the centre. If you look at all your different ink pads, you will be able to come up with so many different colour combinations for these flowers, either by stamping off or by using different colours. It's almost endless what you can do in yellows and oranges and blues and pinks and reds and so on. So that's how I created the big flower. And then this one here is this spray of flower stamps. So I used my Stampin' Right markers for this. Now these are the water-based markers. They're the round markers. Don't confuse them with the Stampin' Blends markers, which are a rectangular profile marker. And thank goodness they did it that way around, because it's so much easier to remember. So these are water-based, and what that means is they will come off your stamps. If I use the Stampin' Blends, two things will happen. I will stain my photopolymer, which maybe doesn't matter because this does stain anyway, but I will. If it was a red rubber stamp, I would also stain that and it wouldn't come off. Also, when I then went to stamp, no ink would come off because they're a permanent marker that dries very, very quickly. So you want the water-based markers for this. And all I'm going to do is colour in my stamp, putting pink where I want pink and green where I want green. And I'm going to use the brush end of the marker, which is marked very handily on the barrel by this wide band. The other end with the fine nib has got the narrow band on it. And I often get people who just haven't made that connection, so I always try and remember to say. And I'm holding the marker quite kind of parallel to the table, quite flat, so I'm not using the tip of the brush tip, I'm using the side of the brush, and that will help preserve it and stop it getting damaged or frayed. So I'm just colouring where I want to stamp in pink, which is basically all the flowers and these little buds here as well. Now you could use ink from your ink pad on a sponge dauber for this instead, but you can't be nearly as precise. So the Stampin' Right markers are fantastic for this. So now this is Old Olive. Did I say it was Flirty Flamingo, the pink? So I've used the same pink as the ink pad, Flirty Flamingo, and then my green is Old Olive. And I'm just colouring in all the leaves. Belinda says that she loves the two-step stamping. If you look on somewhere like Pinterest, people have made charts of all the different colour combinations that you can get with those flowers using the technique I described. They're really lovely. Yes, I've seen those, Belinda. You're quite right. It's a good reminder. There we are. So I think now I've coloured in all the areas of stem and leaf. Now that's taken me a minute or two, and the first parts of the ink have dried. So before I stamp, I just need to huff on this, and the moisture in my breath will reactivate that ink. Because it's a water-based ink, the moisture just revives it again. That won't work with a Stampin' Blend because they're alcohol-based, but it works brilliantly with these. So excuse me while I huff on it. And then I'm going to stamp. And then you get this beautiful two-coloured image, and of course you can colour it with multiple colours, or other images. You can do this with any image at all, either on red rubber or on photopolymer stamps, and that gives you this really pretty more than one colour on one stamp. So now I've shown you how I did those. Let me bring in my envelope with all the bits in it, which I've hidden. I've now walled myself in with ink pads and stamps. You can't see it, but I have not got very much room here. There we go. So I've cut a card base from thick Whisper White card, or thick basic white if you're ordering it now. I'm still working on my Whisper White stash, as I say. And if I'm using a white card base, I always use the thick version of the card, whether it's white or vanilla, because it's just got so much more body to it than the standard one has. Then I have a layer of ordinary weight Whisper White, which I put through my die cutting machine with that beautiful painted texture embossing folder. So I'm going to glue that down. and it's just gorgeous. Then I've got a piece of patterned paper, so I've used this one, which is this pink washed pattern. On the back it's got this one. This is the one that I was cutting out earlier. It's the same pattern as I used for this card, so that's what's on the other side. So my embossed layer is 5.5 by 3 3/4, and this one is 4 3/4 by 3. So I've left much more of a border than I normally would, just so that the texture of the card can show. All right. And then the last thing to do is just to arrange all the pieces. So this is my piece which I've die cut. Now you could fussy cut around this, and certainly this flower isn't too bad to fussy cut out either, nor are the stems and leaves. So you can certainly do that. And actually what I forgot to tell you was, on my leaves I actually just sketched in a little bit of shading with the dark old olive Stamping Blends marker. So that's the alcohol ink marker, not the one I used for the actual multicoloured stamping. Just sketched in a little bit of dark shading on that. I did it on here too. I just used the brush tip and quite a light touch and just kind of flicked a little bit of darker ink there too. So now I just need to arrange these on here and then stick them down. So something like that. And because these are die cut with a little white border around, even though I'm laying a pink flower down on some pink paper, I can still kind of distinguish it against the background because there's that white border. I'm just going to work out where I'm going to place this. Something like that, I think. There we are. So that's all my pieces put down. Now I need a sentiment. So I have one of the shorter sentiment strips here, and I'm going to stamp that with thank you. And I've got the Merry Merlot ink pad here. And again, I'm going to move it down. It's probably going out of shot, and my apologies, just so that I can get my eyes over the top of it. And hopefully, anyway, stamp it in the middle and straight, because that would be good, wouldn't it? There we go. So I'm also going to pop a couple of dimensionals on the back. Again, I've chosen the minis because this is quite a narrow little strip. And I always use plenty of dimensionals because if this ends up going in the post to somebody, I don't want the post office machinery to squash it. If I've only put one either end, that bit in the middle is going to get squashed. And then I've just got to decide where I want it, about there I think. And then the final touch, rather than going kind of sparkly on this, which I could have done, rhinestones would look nice, but I've been using these elegant faceted gems. which I think I'm right in saying are not carrying over into the new catalogue, sadly, because they are really lovely. So I'm just going to pop probably 3. I usually work in 3 or 5 things. So I'm picking out the clear ones. There are also petal pink ones on here, and petal pink is one of the colours in the paper, so it will work. The petal pink ones will work nicely if those are the colours you've done your stamping with. So there we are. So those two are the same but different. Hopefully that's all in shot. And once again, I'm going to cover my envelope flap with a bit of patterned paper. Bit of a blob of glue there. Let's spread that out. And once again, very easy to just trim that neatly on the back. So there we are, that's my final card for today. I can't believe it's after 3 o'clock. The time just goes when I'm crafting with you. Alright, so let me show you all 3 cards from this afternoon. Make sure I get them around the right way. I wonder if they'll all fit on. Let's see. Waiting for my iPad to catch up. Yes, more or less. Can probably spread those a little bit. There we are. So simple cutout patterned paper, paper with the acetate on top, and then stamping and die cutting with, of course, this beautiful textured folder. I'm glad you like the pink, Kay. Thank you. I think that's probably my favourite as well. All right, so I'm going to cover you over and just swing you back up so that I can say goodbye. And I'm also going to just give you the reminders that I forgot to say earlier. All right, so bear with me because I've got to alter some of the settings as well. And I've also got to put the microphone back on my collar. Okay, right, so hopefully now everything will be up the way it should be as I move the camera. Okay, let's try that and see. Hopefully that will be right. I can't tell till I can see my iPad, which catches up and shows me what you see. Okay, is that better? Let's tilt that down just a fraction. There we go. Okay, so reminders that I completely forgot to tell you at the beginning. The annual catalogue last chance list is on its last week and a little bit. So that finishes on May the 3rd. So all of next week, you can still get items from the annual catalogue as long as they haven't sold out. A lot has sold out now. And the following week on the Monday. So that's just over a week. On May the 4th, which is the Tuesday, the new annual catalogue goes live. will be sending out the new annual catalogues next week to all of you who've either ordered from me in the last year or done a class with me in the last year. What was I going to say? If you don't fit into that category but you would like a catalogue, let me know. I know some of you already have a demonstrator that you work with, so I won't be sending you one. And some of you are demonstrators and I won't be sending you one either because you get your own. But they will be going out next week. If you are interested in doing May's Fancy Fold Cards class, which is 2 fancy fold or kinetic moving cards, and you get a project and you make a template for each one, and there are videos for that, and I'll send you a pack with all the bits. That needs to be booked by May the 7th, please, which is 2 weeks today. I think I'm right in saying, she says looking at her calendar, yeah, 2 weeks today. So you've got a little while to do that. And if you're interested in the Fine Art Floral Suite Sampler, which is all the goodies I showed you at the beginning, then it's £11 if you can collect it from me. It's £13 if I need to post it to you, and you've got until April the 30th, which is a week today, to order that. Any questions, then send me an email, handmadeathome, all one word, handmadeathome @hotmail.co.uk. Next week's live, which will be at 2 o'clock on Friday as usual, is going to be concentrating on the Pretty Perennials bundle, which I absolutely love. You'll find that in the January to June catalogue. I should have checked the page. I marked the page for the Fine Art Floral. Let me quickly find it for you in case you haven't seen it. And it hasn't made it into the annual catalogue, which I was really sad about. I really hoped that it would, but it hasn't. So I'm making the most of it while I can. And you can still get it, that's not a problem. Oh, I really should have done this, shouldn't I? It's not exciting watching somebody page through a catalogue. No, I can't find it. If I don't find it quickly, I'll give up. Must be near the end. Must be near the end. Okay. No, I can't find it quickly. I can't believe this. Anyway, Pretty Perennials, page 31. Page 31. There we go. Okay, so let me hold that up. There we go. So it's flowers again, but they're a completely different style. And I do really love those, so I'm going to take the opportunity to work with those with you next week. And the following week, which is the week that starts May the 3rd, that's catalogue launch week. Very exciting. And I will be going live 4 times that week, on the Tuesday, which is the day the catalogue launches, Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday at 2 o'clock as normal, but just a couple of extra days on top. And on Thursday I'll be going live at 12 o'clock. So the reason for that is, as I think I told you, it was going to be 2 o'clock, and then my hairdresser offered me an appointment. So I absolutely cannot turn that down. I've been waiting since, well, lockdown really, to get my hair done. It was last done in the middle of December, so it badly needs doing. So I'll be just doing that a little bit earlier and then getting my hair cut otherwise at 2 o'clock. But I'll tell you all about that again next week. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to see you. Thank you for all your lovely thank you comments. I'm glad you've been here. Have a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you again next Friday, and we'll be looking at Pretty Perennials. Bye bye.